All right, welcome to another edition of the Stay True podcast, being brought to you by True Beast Coaching, where triumph requires unlimited effort. I am your host, Lamont, and I am so excited to have my homeboy on today, Mr. John Williams. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Lamont. Thanks for having me on today.
It's indeed a pleasure, man. If you ran for office, man, I will vote for you as quickly as possible, bro. Very professional.
Okay. Well, I'm taking contributions already, by the way. So.
Hey, send me the cash out. It's on its way, brother. Without a doubt. What I want to do, John, is I want to go ahead and give people an opportunity to know who you are, and then we're going to segue because today's topic we're dealing with Black wealth, man, and I'm so excited to talk about it with you. Let's give people a little bit of insight on who you are.
Okay. Well, just an overview. My name is John Williams. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I am a CPA, and I have owned my own tax and consulting business since, I guess, 2002. And so that's also located in Dallas, Texas. I'm a graduate of Texas A&M University, 1989. And so essentially ever since I graduated, I've worked in my field. And so I worked with various companies in different industries up until 2002. And in 2002, I forged out on my own.
So as you forged out on your own, how scary was that, man? I'm just curious.
Well, it was a little, somewhat of a challenge, but I was fortunate in that unlike many entrepreneurs and first-time business owners, most of the time when they go out on their own, they don't have an existing client base. And so they really have to hit the ground running. But I was fortunate enough to essentially have, did some part-time work for clients before I left corporate America. But I really had a ready client base in the sense that there were a few relatives. There were a lot of, as we call it at Texas A&M, former students. We don't say alumni, but so there were a lot of former students that became clients almost instantaneously. And then, as you know, I have, we're the fraternity that we're members of. I had a small army of clients, once the word got out to the fraternity brothers. So that reduced some of the stress that normally an entrepreneur would encounter when they go out on their own. And so I really had a ready market. And also my largest client at the time was a client that I had formerly been a W-2 employee for. So I had a lot of things in my corner, a lot of advantages in my corner compared to other individuals when they start out.
That's amazing. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring that out because the first step is it's like that's the make or break for a lot of people, man. No matter how gifted. So I'm glad you said that, man. And with us talking about Black wealth, what comes to mind? What's the first thing to come to mind as one talks about building Black wealth?
Well, it's a great topic. It's a topic that over the last couple of years has captured more attention. And not that, that there shouldn't have been attention over all of these years, but I'm glad to see a spotlight being shined upon it in the Black community now. But Black wealth is essentially, to me, there's two steps. Number one is for the current generation is being able to accumulate enough wealth to where we can live comfortably and we can provide for our families. But there's another step to that, and the next step is to be able to provide for the generation or generations after us. And in order to in order to build Black wealth, it takes time and it takes planning, not just Black wealth. I have clients of all races and cultures, and so in any community, there takes time. There takes time to build the wealth, and there needs to be a plan in place to do it. It just doesn't happen overnight.
That's awesome. Again, you listen to the Stay True podcast, being brought to you by True Beats Coaching, where triumph requires unlimited effort. We have today Mr. John Williams. Man, so for me, and when I listen to so many different people talk about wealth, and how the dollar doesn't traverse enough in our community. If someone were to pose this to you as the next, I'm sure, governor of Texas, how would you approach that, man? How we get the dollar circulate? Because the dollar is green, of course, but right now I'm talking about us as a people, man, how we can grow in our businesses, and then like you're talking about setting up traditionally the wealth for the generations behind us. So how do we get that dollar circulating?
Well, let's go back to the opening of the call. When you asked me about my background, and I think the first step, and obviously this doesn't apply to everyone, but one of the key steps into building Black wealth is for Blacks to own more businesses. And so when I was growing up, I was born in 1967, so in the late 60s and even the 70s, back in my hometown, a small town, mind you, I could drive all over town and just see one Black business after another. A lot of them were grocery stores and barbershops, hair salons, but even laundromats back in the day. But I remember I could name 4 or 5 Black business owners off the top of my head that were around when I was growing up. And unfortunately, over a number of years, we saw those businesses dwindle down, and essentially after, and probably by the time I graduated from high school, there was maybe only 1 or 2 businesses, vibrant businesses in my hometown that were doing well, Black-owned businesses. So I think a key to that is, in order for the money to circulate in the Black community, there needs to be a Black business. And a lot of entertainers and wealthy Black people lately have emphasized the importance of ownership. So when Blacks either are running businesses or they own businesses, that gives us a mechanism by which we can circulate the dollars. And if the ownership is not there, the only alternative that we have is to go outside of the Black community. And so the ownership is the key. Ownership is not only the key to building Black wealth from a business standpoint, and I know this is probably not the topic of this podcast, but another way to build Black wealth is through home ownership. And like I said, that's probably for a different day, but
no, we'll
it's
take
ownership.
It. Keep going, brother. We'll take it.
So the key is Blacks have to own something. And when you own an asset, no matter if it's real estate, equities, if it's your own business, when you own an asset, there are so many things, there are so many ways that asset can pay you. So the key is ownership, and then just, the opportunities will present themselves once that is in place.
So let's dive in that just a little bit more about the home ownership and how that can open up a little bit more, because there's a lot of people who, in their mind, it's paycheck to paycheck, right? And so, and as you said earlier, you had opportunity to see Black business. In some communities, there is not an established Black business, if you will. Everybody's hustling. So how do you educate the people who have a home, but their mindset is not quite there because they haven't seen it, or no one has opportunity to meet a tailor-made brother like yourself to talk about Black wealth. So talk to me.
Okay, well, when you, especially now, I know we're in a kind of a different market, different in a good way now, in the sense that I know just my home, it just, it keeps going up in value. And, some of it, you know, there may be some bubble in the market, we'll see. But when you own a home, if it's a house that you live in, not only are you receiving appreciation in the house, but under the current tax law, and the law has been in place for a number of years, if you have a personal residence, you live in that residence 2 out of the last 5 years, when you sell that residence, if it's within a certain dollar, if the capital gain is within a certain dollar amount, you don't have to pay tax when you on the sale of the house. And so what that does is basically, let's say if an individual bought a house when he was 35, and at 42 he was having an idea of maybe going out and starting his own business. If that individual chose to sell the house, if they were moving from one city to another or just across the town, they could sell the house, take some of those profits, and use it to get in another house, but also have tax-free profits to where they could take some of the proceeds and fund the start of their business. So an individual who has been a homeowner, if they do decide to go down that entrepreneurial route, while the proceeds from the house probably wouldn't be enough to fund the whole venture, it would probably give them enough money to at least, start the business, and hopefully over a number of months or a number of years, build it up to where the business is self-sustaining. And so that's just one example where we could take home ownership and use it to build wealth. Also, there's a situation where if an individual or family needed emergency cash, they could possibly take out a home equity loan on their home based on their equity, their appreciation in the house. And even though that's not something I readily encourage, especially if you're taking it out to take a vacation or buy a swimming pool, but if there is an emergency, that gives you an alternative source than going out to some of the high interest lenders that we have in the Black community. And so there's just a number of doors that home ownership opens when the home is purchased right, and if you're fortunate enough to be in an area where there's appreciation.
That's amazing.
Which is really all across America now.
Which is amazing. Because when I listen to the newer entrepreneur, that's one of the things they talk about is property. Even people who may not have all the degrees, that's one of the main things I see people striving in as far as real estate. So, man, you're very knowledgeable. So I'm listening to you, and I want to know: do you guys at your firm, do you guys do like any type of training whatsoever, man? Because it's a lot of people, man, that needs, the information that you're providing. So I'm just curious.
Well, currently, right now, I don't know if you would actually classify that as training, but a lot of my clients, we do what's called tax planning. So for the clients that are currently under my umbrella, I meet with them, several times throughout the year, not just in the spring when it's time to sit down and work on tax returns, but you have to remember that once we cross 12/31 at the end of the year, I stop being a tax planner and I start being a preparer. So what that means is that there is I with only there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, once the year ends, the only thing that I can do is basically work on your taxes. There's not any maneuverability in terms of what we can do once the tax year is closed out. Uh, so right now, the training or tax planning is on a one-to-one client basis, but certainly that's something that I'm open to doing in the future. I've had actually I have actually a couple of athletes that I as clients, and so I plan on here in the next couple of months doing a little group uh, symposium or training for them. But yeah, that's certainly something that I'll look closer at in the future.
That's awesome. I can't help but think about it, bro. I mean, you so, you know, tailor made. I was wondering the days of the step shows, man. Did you actually step, man?
Yeah,
What was your role, bro?
yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell off on myself a little bit because I don't want to make it seem like I was just a shirt wearer. But of course, I love the fraternity, but I pledged when I was a senior, so I transferred into Texas A&M, and so my first year of college, we weren't allowed to pledge. Whether if it was whether you were well, at least I know it was the first semester. I want to say it was the first year.
Mm-hmm.
So I transferred in '87. There was no, I didn't pledge then. Of course, there was a group that came through, and then in I want to say the fall of '88, which would have been, I guess, well, yeah, that would have been I was starting my senior year. So there wasn't, I don't believe there was a pledge class then. And so spring of '89 was my time. So I did, to answer your question, I did get out there a little bit and move around, but I had, I want to say 17 or 18 hours those last semesters. So most of my time was spent in the library as opposed to at step shows, but every now and then I was able to get out there, and I enjoyed every moment. If I had it to do over again, I would definitely probably go to more non-educational events. We'll put it that way.
No, I totally understand. I would too, brother. I would. Again, you listen to the Stay True podcast brought to you by True Beast Coaching, where triumph requires unlimited effort. Mr. John Williams, man, first of all, I know how busy you are. And that's one of the things we talked about in the beginning, man. And so for
so are you. I think you're
doing
a great job.
Yeah. But see, the thing is with me, you way more professional than me, so I can morph real easy. But I appreciate what you bring to the table, man. And it's important not only for those who seek Black wealth to see businesses as wealth, but also see relationships as wealth as well. So how do you approach the network? Because you mentioned when you stepped out on your own, there was you had an opportunity to have people that you were able to do business with, but it's like it's deeper than that because they have to trust you, man. It's their asset. So how do you build that network, especially with people that know you? Because the Bible says that a prophet has no honor in his own land. So how do you make that work, man?
Well, a big part of that, and you hit it on the head, Lamont. Relationships are so important. A big part of building a relationship, number one, you have to be trustworthy. And because eventually, whether your reputation is good or bad, that is your reputation. But another aspect of building relationships is in every way possible, try to be consistent. And so if you were to talk to or speak to clients that I've had for 10 or 15 years, or I would think hopefully even clients that have only been under my umbrella for the last 1 or 2 years, I think they would probably tell you that I'm consistent and that they pretty much know what to expect, but they also, part of the consistency, they know how to contact me, and not to take away from any other companies that are in my industry, but sometimes, unfortunately, you'll have more so on the preparing end. You may have companies that come along and they're around for a year or two, and some of them are pop-up companies, and which I really don't compete in that market, but then they disappear. Whereas if there's an issue that a client needs to reach out to me concerning, they know my office is still off the toll road in Dallas, or they can go to my website and my information is pretty much the same, or the numbers may change a little bit. So a big part of building relationships is being consistent, being honest, but also the client needs to realize they're dealing with someone who's been around a long time and is going to continue to be around a long time.
That's amazing. I've been noticing this trend, especially since cryptocurrency. Like everybody's is a expert on the stock market.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even like assume anymore, because I'm seeing people with tattoos up their face. Everybody knows. So I'm like, so from a professional standpoint, man, how do you, or do you even like, feel a need to educate people more, man? Because I mean, everybody's giving advice, and some of it's wrong, and sometimes that's the counterproductive way to produce wealth, man.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that?
Well, in terms of crypto, that's certainly a new area. I think certainly that form of currency is in some shape, form, or fashion here to stay, whether it's Bitcoin or Doge or Ethereum. I believe I'm saying that right. So it's not an area that I am well versed in, but I do believe that the major players, like I said, to some degree, they're here to stay. The stock market, I partner with a couple of advisors that I send my clients to for financial planning and financial advice. So that's not something I'm licensed to do. I feel like I have a good bit of knowledge in that area, and I do have a couple of accounts of my own that I manage, but my larger retirement accounts are in the hands of professionals. But the stock market is something that traditionally the African Americans have lagged in participation in comparison to other races. So I feel like over the last three to 5 years, as we have seen younger Blacks move more into authoritative positions within blue chip companies, we're starting to see Black households invest more in the market, and that's one of the key ways that the stock market and real estate ownership and business ownership are essentially the three primary tools that we can use to build wealth. And so I would encourage, the market is at a high valuation now. So today I wouldn't go out and take all my money out of cash and put it into the market, but I would certainly look at if individuals do not have a relationship with a professional, look at establishing one and gradually moving into the market. And of course, if any of your listeners have live in the Dallas area, or I have clients in various states, but if they need some guidance in terms of seeking out professional advisors in that field, just certainly reach out to them.
That's awesome. Can you provide your information? I mean, can you say it right now? Because I'm
all of my information is on my website. So it's BellWilliamsGroupLLC.com. That's Bell, like you ring a bell, BELL, LL, and then Williams, my last name, Group, LLC.com. And, if you, more than likely, if you go to Google and just Google Bell Williams Group, I should be pretty at the top or pretty close to the top. If you're in Dallas, I'm at the top, but in St. Louis, or Kansas City, I may be 3 or 4 down the line.
Got you. So now I want to switch just a little bit. Now, John, I want you to pretend like you was you were a comedian and you only had one joke to tell. What would that be?
Oh, wow. All of my jokes are like extremely dad jokes. I mean, to the extreme. I probably know a better one than this, but the joke that comes to mind is, why was 6 afraid of 7?
Why is that?
Because 7. Wait, I said that wrong. Wait, okay, I got it now. So why was 6 afraid of 7?
And why is that, bro?
Because 7, 8, 9.
Hey, John, I'm gonna have to take you on the road, bro. I'm gonna have to take you on the road. Now, this is what I also do too, because I like people to think out of the box. So now I'm gonna throw out a couple of geometric shapes and you pick which one fit you and you tell me why. So we're gonna go square, we're gonna say hexagon, circle, triangle, and let me throw, let's just try those. So triangle,
well,
square, rectangle.
Myself, I would say a circle, because I feel that I'm well-rounded. But I think if you were to poll people that, maybe not my most intimate friends, my closest friends, but just most of the people that like me and know me, they would probably say I'm a square, because I think most CPAs get lumped into that category. And so it's pretty hard for me to escape it, especially when I'm the guy that's dealing with the money. So I pretty much need to for the most part, keep a straight face, and I wouldn't say be rigid, but I guess in most cases I have to be the adult in the room. So I feel like I'm well-rounded, and my closest friends would say that. But once you get out of that inner circle, I would probably get lumped into the square category.
In the square,
if nothing else, but the simple reason that I'm a CPA.
Let me ask you this, because just on that note, what are some of the myths of being a Black CPA besides the square?
Well, there's not a lot of us, unfortunately. So I would like to encourage young African Americans, especially if they're looking at pursuing a degree in business, to give accounting a hard look. We're looking to recruit accountants, period, not just African American, but the field. We need more accountants just across the board. So I would say it's a good field to build a career in, if you're working in industry, or if you decide to, if you public accounting is normally the first step that you would take if you're fortunate enough to be able to go down that route. But at some point, if you do decide to hang out your own shingle, even, it could be as an accountant, CPA, or if you decide to open another business, even though you're not necessarily providing accounting services to other companies and other individuals, you can take the accounting skills that you've learned and the experience that you've garnered to basically run your own business. So there's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of doors that an accounting degree opens up for you. And in one sense, it's almost as if it would be somewhat similar to a individual who knows how to speak more than one language. If for people that are bilingual, I mean, there are just a ton of opportunity, a lot more opportunities that are presented to you simply because if you have no other skill set other than being bilingual. So
So let me ask you this
that
too.
doesn't have to be Spanish. It could be a number of languages, you know.
Got you. Let me ask you this. Are there any myths attached to Black wealth that people who are trying to get to that point, that, you know, some myths that we can dispel? Because I need to attack the brain for a second here.
Well, I would say the only myth is that there may be a myth that is unattainable for Blacks. That in of itself is a myth. Someone once told me, and at first glance it doesn't make sense, but if you think about it, it does make sense. And I once heard someone say, or maybe I read it, that it's difficult to become wealthy by saving money. But in order to become wealthy, you have to save money. And so what that means is, and this is pertains more so to the Black community, our ancestors were good at saving money, which is the beginning. But the rate of return on savings accounts, especially now. Now, if you were to go back to 1980, when I was in high school, the prime interest, the interest rate on a 30-year bond was probably 19%. And so, yeah, you could save money and put it, at least put it in debt securities and get a good return. But what that saying means is normally the rate of return on a savings account is not enough to make you wealthy unless you start at a really young age. So if you either started at a really young age, and if you're able to start out with a lot of money to begin with, well, obviously, if your principal balance is high from the get-go, it's going to earn more than if you were investing $2,500. But the second part of that saying is that you have to save in order to become wealthy. And what that means is that the first step is you need to save money, but at some point, whether it's 2, 5, 10 years down the road, you're going to have an opportunity to invest that money. And so if you invest that money smartly, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in starting your own business, then that's when the savings have an opportunity to grow exponentially. And I'll give you an example. I have a client for years and years. They were saving money, and they had saved a good amount of money because this is something that they had worked on about 20 years. And he happened to have a background in with rehabbing properties. So he took, I'd say, if off the top of my head, he probably took a $50,000 investment. This was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Bought a property that needed work. He had expertise in doing rehab work. He hired a couple of guys to work for him, and he took that $50,000 investment, and in 10 months he made $130,000, and that's unheard of. I mean, if you even 10%, the stock market's yielding that, but the 30-year, the return on a 30-year bond is, I hadn't looked at it today, is probably somewhere between 1.25 and 1.5. I should have looked at it beforehand, but But so my point is, it's just hard. It's hard to save. It's hard to become wealthy if we focus only on saving. And that's what our ancestors were good at. They were good at saving.
Mm.
And hopefully now it's, we can start, at least my generation can hand off the baton, or our generation, to the next generation, and educate them a little bit better in the area that it's not only, it's important to save, number one, but at some point we have to kind of venture out of our comfort zone and looking at investing in asset classes that are going to yield a higher return.
This has been amazing information. Again, you've been listening to Stay True podcast, brought to you by True Beast Coaching. We had today Mr. John Williams. And brother, if you could, because this is what I always typically do as I close, I love for the speaker to speak life into whoever you want it to be, whether it be that investor, that potential business owner. I'm going to give you the next minute. The floor is yours. Go ahead, brother.
Well, I would, what comes to mind is a quote by C.S. Lewis, and I want to paraphrase it because I may not have it exactly down to the wording, but exact wording. But I believe the saying was, we cannot go back in the past and change the past, but we can start now and change the ending. Mm. So what that means is that the past is in the past. We cannot go back and alter the past. Mm. But we can start right now. We can take the experiences that we have encountered over the past. We can take the educational encounters that we have experienced over the past, and we can use that as tools to change our future. So we're talking specifically about Black wealth. So what I would say, if there's a listener who's basically they're at square one, they have very little in savings, and they don't have a home and some of the other assets. Well, we have to start somewhere, and starting today is a good starting point. Mm. So the first step is to kind of take a look, evaluate each one of us where we are. Mm. I believe, living in America, and we have a lot of opportunity. I still believe it's a land of opportunity. And so if you're at a point financially where you're not happy where you are, I don't want to urge someone to go out and quit their job, but in America, we can always start our own business. In China, you can start a business, but the government is looking over your shoulder, and it's heavily regulated. And all you have to do is look at the stories that's been in the news on how some of the major tech companies in China are kind of under the thumb of the government. And so what I would say to that individual, look within yourself and figure out what God-given talent you have, and look to take that talent and monetize it and turn it into, it may not be a business that will allow you to, like I said, leave your 9 to 5, but it could be a business. It could be an additional source of income that will, if nothing else, help you set aside more funds for retirement, or just allow you to live more of the lifestyle that you would like to live.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Brother John Williams, thank you so much, man.
Thanks so much for having me today. I've really enjoyed it.
I have to. We got to do this again, bro, because I need to pick your brain.
Yeah, you have to pay me back when you come down to Dallas. You're going to have to train me, put me through a physical training session so I can get in shape like you are. So that's my only requirement. That's my only requirement for sitting down to do this podcast.
Hey, don't make me laugh, bro.
You have to
I tell you
return the
what, I'll
favor.
do that in exchange for your tailor, because I need to.
Okay.
But bro, once
We can
again,
do
thank you
that.
so much for your time. This has been wonderful. Again, you've been listening to Stay True Podcast, brought to you by True Beast Coaching. And always remember, triumph requires unlimited effort.